Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with Ewan Downie today. He's CEO at i-80 Gold Mines. That's this new venture, having sold to Premier Gold to Equinox. We talk about the three assets that they've got, the cash available to them and the ambition of the man. If you want our thoughts and opinions on that conversation, topics discussed, the assets, the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training courses on there, and we've done summaries of all the interviews that we've done to save you some time, because we know you're busy. But most excitingly of all, we've got a wonderful, thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe, friendly environment, free from all that judgment, trolling, and abuse you see elsewhere. And if that sounds nice to you, and I hope it does, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So give us a like, leave your thoughts below. We get back to everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today with Ewan, take a look in the description below. Ewan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. Have you had any time off?
None. We got the takeover completed. The assets that from Premier that went in Equinox were completed and hit the ground running with i-80.
Oh boy, no time off. Okay. Well, about to hear all about it, why you got so excited. So thanks for joining us. I haven't seen you for over a year. Congrats on the deal. So that's completely done and dusted? Nothing else to be signed?
Yeah, looking forward to seeing our Hard Rock asset that we had in Premier be advanced under the new Equinox banner and their financial position to move that large scale operation forward, and allows me to get a bit of a rebirth starting in a bit of a new place. We've set up our head office in Reno, and we're trying to grow a new producer and developer mine company in the state of Nevada.
So, I mean, that's interesting to me. I mean, do you sort of look back with some regret and go, oh, maybe we should have had a go ourselves? Do you think actually that was the right time for that deal? Proud father syndrome.
I think it was the right time for that deal. The Hard Rock Project, part of the Greenstone Gold Mine that here in northwestern Ontario, is a large scale open pit, pretty significant capital, and after the lawsuit, which was settled just before the takeover with Centerra, had a negative effect on our share price, we just thought it was the best thing to do without diluting our shareholders to the point where it may not have been accretive for the company. And we get the SpinCo, and Premier itself was a spin out company, and we get to do it again, so to speak.
Okay, interesting. Well, I tell you what, why don't you give us a 1 minute summary for people, I think a lot of people new to the story, and I'll pick it up with some questions from there if you don't mind.
Sure. i-80 Gold Mines is the newest on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the newest gold producer. The company begins day one with production. We're a partner with Nevada Gold Mines in the Carlin Trend and at the El Nino operating mine. And we have what I think is a pure best growth platform. We've got 3 projects that are fully permitted for development, and we have a very strong balance sheet as we start this company. We have about 80 or over 80 million Canadian in cash, no debt, and we have cash flow from an operation. And we are focused on building out our portfolio to become a multi-mine producer that generates significant cash flow. Okay,
so one, I admire us of the fact you didn't take any time off to enjoy your spoils. You've dug straight in to set up i-80. Why have you set it up like this? Was it just a case of anything we can get our hands on? We just want to get going again, or are these the projects that you would have wanted to, take if you were writing this out on a piece of paper and planning it?
Prior to announcing the deal with Equinox, we press released that it was our intent to split up the company. The Premier was sometimes viewed as a difficult story to follow because we had a mine in Mexico, we had 2 projects in Canada and 3 projects in Nevada. And after we announced that it was our intent to break up the company, that triggered discussions with a couple of parties on what do you want to do with your US assets? What do you want to do with Canada? And that led to the ultimate takeover of Premier for the Mexican and Canadian assets. But it was already our intent to do this SpinCo. And we felt that the Nevada portfolio that are very high grade deposits in their own right. In fact, several of them are over 10 grams per ton. And we just felt that they were being underappreciated in Premier, and a way to bring value to our shareholders was to spin them out and have a Nevada standalone company. And with the transaction with Equinox, they agreed that we could we would still follow through with our SpinCo that we'd already started work on, and they would be a major shareholder and a supporter of that company going forward.
That was kind of an easy option for you because they were there, right? But they're we're looking at a significant portion of it underground, which was not where you come from. So it was a case of let's just get something going, and then we'll kind of build up this mind building empire as we go along, because at least they've got a little bit of cash flow, and we can raise some money off the back of it.
And no, we just we've got a plan. We want to be one of the biggest producers in the state of Nevada. We didn't just cookie cutter Premier and put everybody into i-80. We formulated a new group, so to speak. We have several new board members, several new people in management. Instead of being president and CEO, I'm the CEO, and we brought in a president and chief operating officer who has tremendous experience operating mines in Nevada. And we really feel we've got a platform to build a major or a mid-tier mining company organically because of our existing assets. And as part of the transaction, we acquired a new project, what we call the Getchell property from Waterton, that will be embarking on a major underground and surface drill program here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I think Waterton seem to be offloading a lot of assets at the moment. Are they trying to save up for Dumont or something?
No, I think Waterton did a really good job acquiring projects when the gold market was down. They assembled a fair number of them throughout the United States and in Canada, and now some of them they're selling, and they're looking at what are their options to do with others. But I think they did a really smart, really good job acquiring projects when everybody was selling.
So let's talk about your team. You've taken the chance to sort of change things up. Is that because the profile of the assets is slightly different from before? You need new skill sets in there. Was there a queue waiting to work with you, given what you'd achieved at Premier?
No, I'm still in Thunder Bay in Ontario, and our main project was here in northwestern Ontario. With the i-80 Gold, everything is in Nevada. So we felt that to build that company, we needed an experienced team that have experience building in Nevada. And on our team, as I said, Matt Geely, our president and chief operating officer, was formerly the executive general manager of the Cortez district for Barrick, which is one of the large operations within Nevada gold mines. And Brent Christoph on our team, who also lives in Reno, used to be the general manager of the Turquoise Ridge mine, which is immediately north of our Getchell project. So to be successful here, I think it was critical that we built a team that knows how to work and operate in Nevada, deal with the ground conditions we may encounter, rather than bringing our team who is more Canadian focused in sort of development and mining, who didn't have that level of experience. So we wanted to make sure we set up the company with the proper group of professionals to build it out. And
I mean, right, you're listed on the TSX, 400 million-ish market cap company, US focused. Does that tell us at some point you're going to have to make a move down south and list on the New York Stock Exchange?
Yeah, that's our intent. We're currently working on an OTCQX listing because they're much simpler and more. You can get it done more quickly than you can listing on a full New York. But yes, it's definitely our intent to list on become New York listed. It's always been a goal of mine to sort of ring the bell in New York, so to speak, and like to see that happen with i-80 Gold. And what we just have to do is maintain a $2 US share price for a certain period, and then we can apply for that listing. And and we're there right now, and we're getting ready to be a dual listed company, U.S. and potentially ultimately re-domiciled to the U.S. so that we would be primarily listed in the U.S. and domiciled in the U.S., which would qualify us for a number of index funds that you don't qualify for as a TSX company.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to, well, I guess you've got a few things to do with the share price and market cap between now and then. Let's talk about these US assets. So South Arturo, you've got a 40% ownership of that. Tell us about how much that costs, where the money's come from, who operates, etc.
Yeah, the South Arturo project is a joint venture with Nevada Gold Mines. Nevada Gold Mines is the joint venture itself that was set up between the world's two largest gold mining companies, Barrick and Newmont, where they combined their U.S. assets. And the largest operation within the Nevada Gold Mines portfolio is the Carlin projects, where they combined their mines along the Carlin Trend. And in doing so, they consolidated the district. And it leaves i-80 Gold as the only operating company on the North Carlin that Nevada Gold Mines doesn't own outright, and we're their only operating partner. We bought the project from Gold Corp back in 2015. During that era was a bit of a period where the majors were shoring up their balance sheets, selling assets, and selling some non-core assets to do that. And we were successful at negotiating a deal to acquire 40% of Arturo. And a year later, the project went into production. So it became our company's first producing operation. It's operated by, the biggest miners in the world. So it's a fairly easy project to advance for us. It's high grade, underground, generates cash flow, and operated, as I said, by a world-class operating team at the Gold Strike mine. So it's been quite a great acquisition for us. It's already returned over 50% on our capital that we invested in acquiring it and building it. And because the ore is processed at existing facilities there, as we build out new operations, the capital cost is very minimal compared to trying to build a new mine, as many companies are doing. So we don't expect to see huge dilution to build out the phase one operation and the phase 3 project, which are the next two that we're hoping to build on the property.
Absolutely. So yeah, because you've kind of got an open pit option and you've got underground as well. So there's a few different ways that you can come at this. But just reminding, what does that cash flow profile look like over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
That'll all be dependent on how quickly we build out the other operations. We're operating El Nino. El Nino is a relatively small, sort of 50 to 60,000 ounce a year underground operation where we get 40% of the gold, but it's high margin because it's good grade. So we generate, it's producing at under $1,000 an ounce. Cash costs are well under $1,000 an ounce. So that means we're generating good cash on our roughly 20,000 ounces a year. But if we build or when we build the phase 3 project, that should double up our production from the property. And assuming we build the heap leach facility associated with the phase 1 open pit, which could start this year or next year and the following year, we have to discuss as a partnership timing. We could significantly ramp up our production there and cash flow. And the capital cost for us to build the next 2 phases of mining for our balance sheet would be less than $50 million. And I think that's amongst the lowest in the industry, where you can build 2 operations for under $50 million in capital.
Because I'm just hearing those numbers here. And do you think you're kind of getting the Premier Gold sale to Equinox premium at the moment for your market cap? How the people are valuing you today? Because you've still got a ways to go on this project in terms of getting the production up. There's some cash flow, which is great. You're only at PEA stage with the Getchell Project, and McCoy-Cove is, again, you still got a bit of work to do on that. So do you think you've kind of got to backfill some of that valuation by some of the work you're going to do this year?
No, I think I think if you look at our peer group, you look at companies like Sabina, you look at North American developers or new mining companies, Sabina, Artemis, who just took on the Blackwater project in BC, Pure Gold, who just built their single asset company with one mine in Red Lake producing under 100,000 ounces. These companies have market caps 50% to 100% higher than ours right now. So I think we've got a ways to go to catch up to some of this peer group. And you lead forward to companies like West Dome, who are smaller producers with some upside. Their market cap is 3 times ours. So I do think there's and then in that peer group, some of the projects being in the Arctic or BC aren't like working in downtown Nevada. And Nevada just recently was nominated #1 by the Fraser Institute in terms of global attractiveness for mining investment. So we're in a tier 1 jurisdiction, very safe jurisdiction, cash flow, no debt, and a platform to build a company that will produce over 200,000 ounces a year. So no, I think we're trading at the low end of our peer group right now.
Okay. I get the Nevada as a great jurisdiction. I do get that. I think that's people say that a lot. But just coming on this valuation thing, because you mentioned a phrase earlier, which I thought was interesting in terms of, the majors. Every now and again, they shore up their balance sheet and then they go out looking for deals because they also need to, get the ounces in the bag too. Do you genuinely think that the market is priced right at the moment? I know gold prices come off a bit, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of money in the market still. It's like the market hasn't listened completely to all of the metrics, and money is available, and it's cheap money as well for all and sundry, good projects and bad.
I don't know. I think the market's been pretty soft for mining of late, and the gold price is being caught in a bit of a lull, and there's been a lot of uncertainty in which direction it's going. So we've seen the companies trade off significantly from where they were 6-8 months ago. And I think there's still a long way to go. I think the gold price should perform well in this current worldwide environment, longer term, as people realize that this printing of cash we've seen over a while is going to come to roost. And I'm not sure about the whole Bitcoin and Cetera platform. So I think gold's got a long way to go. It's going to have a great future, and the companies who have quality assets and quality jurisdictions will be the ones that perform the best.
But that's the point, though, in all of this, Ewan, is I think a lot of companies last year got funded, which are just their momentum promotional plays. Companies with good fundamentals, you'd argue yours is one of those, and you've listed a few others in this call, are perhaps not seeing as much attention because of the distractions elsewhere with these, say, momentum promotional plays, and the money's being spread quite thin in the gold space. Do you think, what I'm trying to understand with it, where this goes this year as an investor, where does this go this year? Do we see the big boys having shored up their balance sheets, come and take out some of these perhaps slightly overpriced momentum plays? Are you going to be able to take advantage of that? Are companies like you going to be able to find capital easy to come by and do more M&A to become a big US gold producer?
Yeah, I definitely think there's continued opportunities. The battery metals, so to speak, have been in the mining sector, the hot sector. So a lot of the money has flowed towards nickel and platinum palladium companies. So it's taken a bit of the luster out of gold. But as we've seen, the mining industry is typically been very secular. And one metal's hot one year, several years back, iron ore was all the craze, and uranium. And I do think that the gold companies, when you look at the performance at even the current gold price, which is quite good, the performance of the producers, soon a lot of them are going to be completely debt-free, generating large amounts of cash. And I think you compare that to the cash flow per share of, say, a Tesla, and the gold sector just trades at a fraction. So I do think we're going to see a a rebirth in our sector as the companies continue to demonstrate that their financial positions are tremendous. They're all starting to pay dividends, the bigger producers, and those dividends are getting bigger and bigger. And you compare that, the ability for them to generate the cash to do it, to many of these either hot US stocks that really generate no cash and have billions and billions of dollar market cap. I do think at some point investors have to come back to true fundamentals, which industry is making money and generating real returns for their shareholders. And I'd have to say the mining industry is right up there. And in this gold price environment, all companies who have good mines are generating lots of cash.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said there. We've seen a lot of new investors come into the mining space, right? But from outside, because they've seen all the successes of last year. Lots of people made lots of money last year. You didn't have to be too smart to make money in mining last year because most things went up. Gold had a good year until the end of the year. Precious metal, I think you could argue that. The battery metals saw great returns throughout the year, even the lithiums of this world. And these generalists think, oh, it's easy. This is investing business is easy because it's a bull market, and therefore perhaps they don't need to be as switched on as perhaps seasoned mining investors who would fall back to some of the old adages like gold is a safe haven. When markets, are perhaps strained, when governments are printing money, when there's a lot of debt around, gold is the go-to, the obvious one. But it seems to me there's a lot of investors out there perhaps looking elsewhere outside of mining. If markets do go, they're going to try and find other ways to invest their money. So
I don't know. I think that we've already seen a bit of an exodus out of the gold sector. The generalists really aren't there. They're not. If you look at statistics, typically the generalist investment community is very underweight in gold right now. And so I think we've seen that period of people flowing out of the gold sector. And now at some point we should see that flow back in. Most of the gold stocks over the last, as I said earlier, last 6-8 months are down. And to me, that means that they have been sold off. There's been a pretty significant, every day the ETFs have seen redemptions, not increases for quite a while now. And like I said, this has been cyclical in our industry for decades and decades. And we're in one of the ebbs where money's flowing out. I think pretty soon we'll see it flow back in. So I think we're right now in a bit of a down cycle for the golds. The copper is almost at all-time highs, so we're seeing money flow that way. And it's just that we're seeing one of those shifts where gold isn't the most favored commodity, but as you said, often it's the go-to space, and especially if the U.S. economy, the markets in the U.S. start to tick back, which fundamentally they should, because PE ratios are crazy. And then people look at, well, what sector has a really good earnings profile compared to their trading, and I think you still have to look at mining and say it's trading at the low end compared to everything else.
But it'll be the producers that can say that I think they're saying. So I just wanted to ask you, you've seen a few cycles, you've built companies. You must have an opinion on this because, if you're going to, it looks like 80 million cash in the bank and cash producing, you may not need to go back out to market anytime soon unless you've got a big acquisition lined up. But you can either go to the institutions who seem very keen on investing in the space, or retail, perhaps, as you say, are looking elsewhere for a quick buck. I guess it's not something that you're going to have to try and navigate, but do you see the kind of confusion out there in the marketplace? Are institutions very, strong? Is their conviction strong with regards to mining investment at the moment?
I think the gold-focused investors are right now. They've seen that. They've seen a lot of the stocks come off by from, say, Equinox, which is up at 18. They're now trading around 11. So you've seen them pare back. So I think they're looking at it more and more as an opportunity right now. if the gold price is creeping back towards 1,800, I think that is kind of a psychological number. If it breaks 18, I think we'll see more money flow in. And I think that there is good support. If you want to go build a mine or make an acquisition, I think there is reasonable support right now. And if we break through 1,800, we'll see more. And just yesterday, we saw more M&A as First Majestic did a transaction to acquire Rox Gold. So we're starting to see companies try to position themselves to become bigger and generate more cash flow. And they must, I believe those companies are seeing the opportunity here with the pullback is perhaps now you make the right the acquisitions, and you'll profit from that when the markets start to when the cycle flows back our way. You'll be front and center, and usually the producers are first, larger developers are second, and the exploration stories. That's a typical cycle as money flows back in. What we've seen over the last bit, though, is the pure single asset explorers are the ones who are performing. There's companies with no cash flow, no permits to build a mine out there. Great Bear has a massive market cap. Newfound Gold that recently came. These companies have big market caps on these discoveries, but they have no cash flow. They have to keep going to the market to raise money, and ultimately, if they're not taken over, they're going to have to come out, put out resources, put out economic studies, and that's usually when reality hits the sector. And I think, and then it's after that you have the upturn again. And I think we're at the other end of the upturn. We're permitted. We've got an operation, and it's now build out the next operations, which will grow our company's production profile and our cash flow ultimately.
Well said. I agree with that. Excited, right? I'll step back from the macro. I'm always intrigued by people who've got the experience and know how of how they read the market. Why does a South American play go and buy a West African play? All of these things are important because it tells us a lot. Where the psychological price is this week, it'll be somewhere else next. I suspect. Can we just talk about? So we took South Arturo. I understand Getchell Project and see what you're doing there. But you're in for a PEA soon, aren't you? In the next couple of months.
Yeah, we're not at the final stages, but we're actively getting ready to publish our preliminary economic assessment for Getchell. That's the newest acquisition in our portfolio. And we are moving 4 drills underground and surface into the property. We'd like to be in a position to make a production decision by year end, at least internally be talking with our board about going ahead with development of the underground. And the beauty of this project is it's under care and maintenance. So the capital has already been sunk, and we are going to drill it off properly, do proper economic studies, get all the metallurgy right so we know where and how we're going to process the ore, and then make an informed decision at the end of the year as to whether or not we proceed with the production from that property. The capital cost at that point will likely be less than 10 million for us to ramp it up into full production. And much like South Arturo, the capital requirements for us to build out these operations is at the very low end of the entire gold market, and we look forward to being successful at building out our production profile over the next few years. And as I said, I think we built the right team to both build and operate these mines for us.
Okay, and with McCoy-Cove, where's that at? I mean, how are you allocating cash time on that one? Because you sounds very aggressive. You've got a very aggressive plan, and like I say, you haven't taken a breather from Premier Gold. You're just going straight into it. I mean, tell us what's going on there, because I also want to talk to you about where the kind of growth component to this is, apart from the existing portfolio.
The McCoy-Cove property is front and center for our future growth profile. We have advanced that to the point where we are permitted to go underground. However, we still have some permitting and acquisition of water rights that are required to go into full production, whereas South Arturo is fully permitted, and it is in operation. So building out new operations, we don't need the water rights or any permitting. The underground at Getchell that we just acquired is under care, maintenance, and permitted. So those two have to take priority because we can advance them today. Whereas McCoy-Cove, we still have to do a bit of work. We can go underground, take a bulk sample, do the underground drilling, prepare for production, but we still need a few boxes to tick in order to go into full production. So I wouldn't expect that we'll advance that underground plan till at least 2022. And hopefully we'll be driving forward with it in 22, having the Getchell or the Pinson underground project at Getchell coming online, which will generate additional cash flow for our company. And in turn, we can put that cash flow into building our next operation.
Do you feel invigorated now? It seemed to me you felt slightly held back because the legal case in Premier Gold. You weren't able to accelerate it at the pace that you wanted. You couldn't get things moving. I know that got resolved, but it then put you in a position where perhaps the best thing to do was to in terms of best return, is to sell it. You did that. Is this, I've got something to prove? Is that how you feel?
No, I don't think it's anything to prove. Our flagship asset in Premier was the Hard Rock property, and we brought in a partner for the purposes of building it. And we ended up in a court case with them when it came time to build it. So I think that probably the last year in Premier, year and a half, while under that lawsuit being carried out to trying to get our own project, as I felt, they still had money. Centerra still had money to put in to earn their full interest, but basically took us to court to block the development of the project. And I'd say it was a pretty frustrating year and a half when there's a property you've spent 10 years taking from an exploration concept to being fully permanent and ready to build. And the partner you brought in to help you achieve your goal takes you to court. It wasn't a fun year, but now that that's gone and we've got this new fully Nevada focused company, it's kind of fun to come to work again. I'd say is a good way to put it.
Brilliant. Ewan, thanks very much for today. Really enjoyed listening to the story. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on. Be delighted to take that phone call.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me on again.